Hi everyone, Yana is here, and you're watching the Clean and Simple die cutting video series. For today's card, I decided to pull out some of my newest supplies. So I have here a couple of different stamps from Hero Arts, and I will be using this larger brush stroke stamp from that Kling stamp set, along with a happy birthday sentiment from the Clear set. I also have a bicycle die from Spellbinders and some inks. These are color box pigment inks from ClearSnap and some black pigment ink from Tsukineko. So I'm starting out with two pieces of cardstock, and one is folded into a traditional size card, which is probably 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. It might be 4 by 5 1/2. Not sure exactly. And next to it, I have just a slightly smaller piece of cardstock. It doesn't really matter how big it is, as long as it's big enough to fit that bicycle die that I showed you previously. So I'm starting out by stamping this large brush stroke image onto my background, and I'm using various colors of ink. Now for this card, I wasn't really focusing on choosing the colors for my color combination. I decided to go with the colors that were already in this paint box, in this petal point set from ClearSnap. So these are the colors that I will be using for my today's cards. They all come from one set that you see there at the top right corner. Now what I'm doing here is I'm stamping a pattern, sort of like a background, onto my card base, and then I'm trying to stamp the exact same pattern onto that white piece of cardstock. Now I know that it's practically impossible to stamp it exactly the same, but since the stamp is isn't very strict, I guess I would say the stamp is rather forgiving, so I'm able to match my stamping on both pieces, and I'm able to recreate almost identical pattern on that other piece of cardstock that I have. Now the reason I chose pigment ink is because this particular ink creates a very nice and thick coverage. It does remind me a little bit of paint. You know, I could have used actual paint for this, but I think it would have looked too bulky and the stamping wouldn't have been so clear. So I decided to use the pigment ink. Now I also thought about using dye ink, but then I thought, hey, dye ink usually absorbs into paper and it might not give the result that I was looking for, while this pigment ink dries on top of the paper and it remains as vivid as you see it in the ink pad. So this is why I chose this particular type of ink for my project. Now I'm using black pigment ink from Tsukineko, and I really like it because it's really nice and I guess thin. If you're using it for detailed stamps, you can get really nice and thin detailed stamping with it. So once again, I'm stamping the sentiment onto my card base, and I'm trying to match and stamp the exact same sentiment on the exact same spot on my second stamped piece. Now I'm moving on to the actual die cutting. So here I have this bicycle die from Spellbinders, and it was released at this winter CHA show, so it's one of their newest dies. And I'm placing this die directly onto my second stamped piece. Now notice that I'm using a little bit of washi tape, or you can use painter's tape, to hold the die in place. I really do not want it to shift. I want it to cut directly where I placed it. So that's why I used that little piece of tape there, just to make sure the die is fixed in place and won't move during my cutting. Now I only cut this die. I didn't do any embossing because I knew that I didn't really need any. So I only ran it through my machine once, and I only cut the piece. Now I'm using a little paper piercer to get the paper out of my die. And just a note, if you're having trouble getting paper out of your die, you might want to use some parchment paper. And Spellbinders recommends placing parchment paper on top of your die before you put the actual paper that you want to die cut. They have a video about on this technique. I'll try to link to it, so you can take a look and maybe learn something there too. So here I have the die-cut bicycle, and I've placed it on top of my actual stamping. I think it looks really cool. But what I wanted to add to this particular card is I wanted to create some dimension. Now, in one of my previous videos, I showed you how you can use craft foam to create a dimension for your die cuts. Now, for this video, I decided to try something else, which is try to die cut a couple of pieces of cardstock. So I had this purple paper from Doodlebug, purple cardstock from Doodlebug, and I added some double-sided tape to it, and I cut about 5 or 6 bicycles out of that paper, and that's how I was able to achieve this dimension. Now, for my last bicycle that you see here on the screen, I placed double-sided tape on both sides of the paper. So I have my die cut is actually sticky on both sides. So now I'm removing the double-sided tape, and I'm able to adhere that bicycle to that stack of bicycles that I already have, and the other side is still going to be sticky, so I will be able to place that die cut, to place that bicycle and adhere it to my card without any additional adhesive. So this is what I'm doing right now, and you see it ends up looking pretty nice and quite dimensional, and I absolutely like this clean and simple look. Here you can see it up front, and there's really lots of dimension and lots of shadows, and yet I was still able to match that stamping and put the bicycle directly on top of that stamped happy birthday sentiment. Now, this is all for today, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please click like, maybe leave me a comment and share it with your crafty friends. Thank you.